Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you as we inch closer, week after week. We get closer to NXT Takeover in England. This tour is going to be taking place, and the live show is going to be taking place December 16th on the WWE Network. I will say that after watching today's episodes of Breaking Ground, you get really closer to the stars of NXT as they inch closer to making the main roster and becoming the superstars of tomorrow. But as of right now, NXT really is hitting on all cylinders. I think that there's a lot of pluses to what's going on with NXT compared to a show like WWE Monday Night Raw or WWE SmackDown. I think the one thing that everyone complains about Monday Night Raw is how long the show is. NXT only being a 1-hour show, happening on Wednesday nights on the WWE Network, is one of the biggest pluses. There's things that they do that, could compare to Monday Night Raw, with wrestlers like Finn Balor and Samoa Joe going at it for the NXT Championship at the NXT Takeover show. They do things that make you remember what wrestling was like during the 80s, having wrestlers come in and do sort of semi-squash matches, wrestling against guys that you've never seen compete in NXT, or guys that just signed to NXT, as guys that are there to help put people over before they have experienced, creating a character and creating who they're going to be as a part of the NXT roster. There's things like bringing in people such as James Storm to sort of pop the crowd and show guys from independent wrestling, such as Tommaso Ciampa wrestling against Samoa Joe in the main event of NXT. Each and every episode has something that's very, very good and sort of growing to being big things for WWE in the foreseeable future. I think that the card that they put together for the NXT TakeOver show in London, although it's not going to be on the big stage, such as like NXT TakeOver in Brooklyn was. I remember we had NXT TakeOver in Brooklyn, and then it seemed like almost like 2 weeks later they were doing another NXT TakeOver. I'm glad that some time has sort of passed on since that last TakeOver, getting us to the point where we are now. It almost makes the NXT TakeOver London feel a lot more special. Even with these only 4 matches, they feel like these 4 matches are really, really big deals. When you look at the card, you got Finn Balor against Samoa Joe, a great main event. You got Dash and Dawson, the Mechanics, going up against Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. That's going to be a big match. Enzo and Big Kaz finally getting their shots at the NXT tag titles. This is a team that's, got heated up and then dropped down to nothing, heated up and then dropped down, and now it looks like they're finally at the point where they're going to be getting the NXT tag titles. Apollo Crews is going to be going up against Baron Corbin. This match, to me, honestly, doesn't really get me pumped, but these are 2 guys that I'm really connected to, especially with Breaking Ground and especially with seeing this guy live. I've got more connected to Baron Corbin. I know that Apollo Crews has a whole lot of talent, but I think this is going to be a really, really good match of just guys going in there and just beating the crap out of each other in order to get over and have a real good, 80s 2 guys just wailing on each other. Asuka going up against Emma is a match, honestly, that sort of confuses me, because I thought that the feud was between Asuka and Dana Brooke, but it seems like Emma has moved into that role. Asuka beat Dana Brooke on the last NXT TakeOver special. She beat her so bad that left her laying right there in the center of the ring. I don't know if they're building up to another Asuka versus Dana Brooke match, but it seems that from watching the show, Dana Brooke does want another match, so maybe they're just trying to put some time in between this to make you want to watch the match just a little bit more. Apollo Crews against Baron Corbin is a match that, honestly, I think that both of these guys are going to be brought up to the main roster sooner than later. I'm sure that Baron Corbin is just trying to go through all of the competition that there is in NXT as of right now, a lot like what Tyler Breeze did, just polishing up all of the loose ends that are going to be there. So I wouldn't really think that either of these guys are going to be down in NXT that much longer. I'm really thinking that Dash and Dawson are going to be dropping the championships to Enzo and Big Kaz. They're a team that really do deserve it. And I know it seems like, with the Vaudevillains, the Lucha Dragons, all of these teams holding the championships and not really having long reigns with them before dropping them, it would think that the NXT tag titles aren't really meaningful but I think it shows you how much there is really going on in the tag team division, especially if you think about Blake and Murphy's another team to throw in there as well. The NXT tag division is 10 times stronger than what is going on with WWE's Monday Night Raw. And as being a guy that loved 80s tag team wrestling, they're really building a division where anybody can win the title on any night. It makes it where there's not jobber tag teams. It seems like everybody is just as strong as everybody else. And on any given night, you could, have somebody win the title. But Enzo and Kaz are a great team to open up any show. They're almost more over than anybody that there is on the roster. And I really think they deserve the spots of being the tag champs and holding their own at the top of the NXT tag division roster. Finn Balor and Samoa Joe is going to be one hell of a main event. I know that every time we've seen an NXT TakeOver show, the main event has been something that easily could have been put on any WWE pay-per-view and been just as good as any main event that is anything out there, whether if it's Finn Balor going up against Kevin Owens, whether if it was Bayley going against Sasha Banks, Neville against Bo Dallas. These were all really, really great, memorable matches that make NXT TakeOver something really special on the WWE Network. Samoa Joe coming in from TNA and really helping out in NXT. I know that he's a guy that really could be used on the WWE main roster with all of the injuries that are going down right now. But I sort of like the fact that they're keeping him down there. Vince doesn't want to use him, and Vince is hard-headed that basically, if you weren't made in WWE, you were not able to help out on WWE Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. That's just him having his own head up his own ass. I think this is going to be a great match. The match easily could go either way. I think that Finn Balor will be keeping the championship. I would hate the fact that if Finn Balor lost to Samoa Joe, you're immediately going to have the talk of Finn Balor, entering the Royal Rumble, having a WWE surprise. Easily, every time anybody loses the championship in NXT, it immediately goes to, oh, he's getting called up. But we've seen this with lots of people that, they lose their championship, they lose a big title match, and they're still done in NXT. It doesn't mean that the end of the road is there for them. It just means that the end of the current storyline that they're running, is done. But, Finn Balor, being able to go over the NXT, show sold out immediately, when announced to be going over to London. So this is a brand that continuously is growing and growing. And if you're not watching NXT on Wednesdays, honestly, this is something that you should, because it's hooking people each and every week.